The Italian Republic has 20 administrative subdivisions, named regioni, meaning regions, and under the Italian constitution, each region is an autonomous entity with defined powers, although 5 of them have larger autonomy than the rest. In this video, I'm going to take a look at the current regions and what if scenario of them becoming independent. Just imagine 20 new countries in Southern Europe and on the Mediterranean. It would be a crazy scenario. So how would each one of these regions do if they were to become independent? And since this would be a very messy situation already, I'm going to assume that all the new countries will be members in the EU so that their current economic and political status would be similar. If we compare the GDP of a few of the richest regions, we can find that Lombardy has a GDP close to that of Denmark, and Lazio has a closer GDP to Greece, while the poorest Italian regions like Aosta Valley have a GDP closer to that of Montenegro. So it's safe to assume that many of these regions would maintain a reasonably well economic status, but a few of the poor regions won't fare so well compared to other European states. Regional capitals like Milan, Rome, Palermo, Naples, Venice, and Bologna are big enough cities to become national capitals on their own. In fact, many of these cities were already capitals back when Italy was made up of powerful and wealthy but smaller kingdoms, duchies, and city-states back in history. So how would these regions compare to each other as independent nations? We can take a look at a few metrics like area, population, GDP, and more. So let's take a look at these 3 factors to start with. First, we check with the area of each region. Sicily is the biggest region with 25,800 square kilometers, followed by Piedmont by 25,500 square kilometers, and Sardinia at number 3 with 24,000. Each one of these 3 has a bigger area from countries like Israel, Slovenia, and North Macedonia. The smallest 3 would be Liguria with 5,000 square kilometers, Molise with 4,000 square kilometers, and Aosta Valley is the smallest with only 3,000 kilometers. All of these countries would still be bigger than Hong Kong, Luxembourg, and Samoa. Of course, it's not all about the size of the land only, because there's no point in having a huge landmass when it's all barren land. So next we look at the populations, because that can tell us a lot about the potential of each nation, from the number of taxpayers to the number of military personnel. Lombardy has the most people at 10 million people, which is close to Portugal, followed by Lazio with 5.7 million and Campania with 5.6 million, which can be compared to Finland and Denmark. Aosta Valley, however, has the smallest population at 126,000 people, which would rank at number 178 between St. Lucia and Kiribati internationally. Then we move to the third metric, GDP. If we look at it from a GDP per capita view, which is the GDP of the state divided by the population, the first 2 are Trentino Alto Adige and Aosta Valley with about $43,000, which comes close to Japan. They have smaller populations, so even though the GDP is smaller than other regions, it comes out on top when we divide it by less people. Third comes Lombardy, which shows how rich the region is since it can rank higher per capita with over 10 million inhabitants. The GDP per capita of Lombardy is higher than that of the entire country of France. The poorest regions per capita are Campania, Sicily, and Calabria, with about $18,000 for each one of them, which still ranks higher than countries like Greece, Latvia, and Uruguay. This map here shows us clearly the divide between Italy's regions when it comes to the GDP per capita. The northern regions rank higher than the southern regions. But GDP per capita can also be deceiving, so what are the actual GDP numbers for these regions? The top 3 Italian region economies are as follows: Lombardy, Lazio, and Veneto, which, like we see, equal the GDPs of UAE, New Zealand, and Greece. And the bottom 3 areas are Aosta Valley, Molise, and Basilicata, which rank close to the countries like Rwanda, Armenia, and Malta. When it comes to education, Italian elementary schools have around 19 students in each class on average. However, regional differences are remarkable. The average number of children per class in Emilia-Romagna is 20.6 students, whereas the class in Aosta Valley could have around 14.6 students only. Factors like urbanization and rural exodus could explain such differences. where we see Aosta Valley is a mountainous region, while Emilia-Romagna is one of the main industrial centers of Italy. When it comes to the national flags of the new countries, we can see that each region already has its own flag, with many notable beautiful flags like those of Veneto, Sicily, Lombardy, Sardinia, and Tuscany, and many more. The only regional flag that has some distinct Italian feel to it is the flag of Apulia, where it has red and green stripes. Some issues may also include currency, assuming that countries won't instantly be admitted to the EU, so what currency would they use? And another issue may be military, so those nations would probably seek to join the EU, NATO, or form an alliance among themselves for national defense. There won't be huge cultural differences between the countries, but some differences may include languages spoken in each one. For example, here's a map showing the different language groups used in Italy. And here we have a percentage of people in Italy having a command of a regional language, so maybe a more believable division can go along these lines. When we look at the big picture, I don't believe that the regions would do better alone than they are doing together as one under Italy, even when we look at the differences in GDP or education and how high some of them rank. For example, being under one Italian unified state, these regions can help each other when one region provides raw materials while another one provides labor, and separating them can end that and make the richer regions poorer. So it makes more sense to stay united, and the only benefit I can see is that some of them maybe can qualify to the World Cup. So anyway, thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please like it and subscribe. Comment if you think I made a mistake somewhere or if you like to see this about other countries in the future. Thanks again and see you next time on Council of Knowledge.